prone to be incorrect and lose? Yes. When you win, you won't look at it that way. You'll look at it as, well, I have skill. I outperformed my model. That was the excuse I gave myself when I was coming up. Well, I'm better than that model. And I've had models humble me that I've created where I tried to outperform them, and I've learned my lesson with that. So rules are there for a reason. You don't cross the center line when you're driving. If you do that, you're likely to do what? What my son did, cause an accident. That was the first rule I told him before I bought his car. I said, do not cross that center line ever. Don't ever do it. If you do that, 80% of the accidents won't happen. Don't speed, don't drive impaired. He doesn't drink, and don't cross that center line. And you're pretty much, in the hands of the Lord or the performance of the other people driving around you. And you can't control those things. So right away, without weekly expansion or an understanding where it's going to reach for, you are without high probability. Now, assuming that you could, we don't have that. I don't have that right now at present for ES. I don't know where it wants to draw. So I have submitted myself to the rules. I said, okay, well, I can't do anything. Because I can sit out here and tell you what I think it might do based on parts of the model. But those parts are not in alignment with what the model calls for. So I can't sit down with you with a can of green paint and a brand new paintbrush and a brand new canvas and try to paint something in the shade of red or blue or yellow. I don't have the tools to do that. So the model is incomplete. The ingredients for it, the recipe that would call for blue ribbon results, I don't have all the ingredients. So it would be foolish for me to sit out here and try to call something that I know is unlikely. I've done enough. I did 2 days of it where I expected certain things, and as soon as it didn't do it, I knew right away, experience taught, I have to stop. Not because I'm afraid, not because I don't know how to do it, because the market's not giving me what my model is looking for or what I would look for with my model. How is that hard to understand? And why would you view that as a weakness? Because it's not. I know when not to do something. Do you? Do the people that you listen to know when to stop? If they're new, they don't. They're discovering that. And unfortunately, they may be learning that through painful lessons that they may not be sharing with you. They may be doing it in the quiet, in the privacy of their own trading, where you don't see them showing you their results. You don't see them live streaming. You don't see them showing you what they did before their live stream started or after and later on. Whatever results they had when they first started live stream may have evaporated. We've seen many instances of that this year. So you have to have preserve capital at all costs is rule number one. That weekly expansion, you have to know where is that weekly candle. The one that you're in right now for this trading week or before the week begins, you have to have an expectation, a reasonable expectation. You can't just, well, I got a gut feeling it's going to go here. It's going to go. No, it has to make perfect sense technically. By the way I teach institutional Orderflow and where it's likely to go to. Where has it been? What stops has it just recently taken? Who is in control right now in profit? How can they be harmed? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself when you're looking at price. Because we don't have that weekly expansion, where it can draw to a very specific level on the weekly chart, on that weekly candle, then we are immediately in low probability. So now that means we're in a scalper's market because also, I mentioned that daily range, it needs to leave that. Not just poke its head above it, it's got to leave it. Then sentiment will shift. And that's all I care. I don't have my heart set on the ES going higher or going lower. I don't care. But I will submit to you that we are going into a seasonal tendency for May going into the middle of June, where it, not all the time, most time, it drops and goes lower into that mid-June time period. So I'm kind of like tipping my hand to you. I believe it's likely to go lower if we're going to only factor in seasonal tendencies. So if I'm going to forecast for you and share my opinion going forward for the next couple months, I believe that ES will be lower if it follows its seasonal tendency. Something can happen, obviously, that can upset that entire thing. And what we've seen in the last 3 years, they're saying UFOs and aliens exist. So anything can happen, folks. Anything can happen. It's Looney Tune land, and you have to be careful. You have to be very, very careful. And I think that's what's being measured in what price is doing right now. Like there's so many things that are going on, not just in America, but in other countries. And risk is elevated, very, very high. And big money, deep pockets are not in a hurry to assume new risk right now. And that's just investing 101. I mean, you have to have some measure of institutional sponsorship for the market to want to move, not because it's the buying and selling pressure, but there has to be some measure of sentiment to allow for this dance, okay, between liquidity providers and large order flow. That has to be there. And right now, there's a vacuum. That's why you're seeing price behave like it does. Short little runs, which takes us to that list again. For high probability, what did I teach you when we were doing the live sessions? What constitutes a high probability 5-handle run? And I think that's the low hanging fruit objective. Can you use what I taught in that model to get 2 handles and 3 handles and be done? Yes. But the chances of you as a new student or a new trader being, well, disciplined to just stop when you get there, have a limit order to get that 2.5, 3 handles and stop. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. So, I mean, you hear me talk about 5 handles, minimum 5. That to me is a goal that you should strive for. You won't hit it right away. You'll grow into it and you'll outgrow it over time. But to me, I think that's a reasonable target for someone that doesn't know how to trade, that's never been consistent, that you start aiming for that. And if you do that, that's fine. You'll outgrow it eventually. But you can make a career entirely off of that. There's nothing wrong with just doing 5 handles. There's nothing wrong with you if you can only get 3 handles out of the 5 you're aiming for all the time. If you're simply, I'm going to move a little bit further down where I have my RV parked at. They have their landscaping crew in here. They're going around with their little weed whackers and they're approaching me. See, you can hear them. So we'll drop it a little bit deeper in. So when I taught you on the live sessions, and I've also taught it in lectures in the Twitter spaces all over the last few months, high probability 5-handle runs need to have what? It needs to have a range that offers how many pips? I'm sorry, not how many pips. How many handles? This is a way to test yourself. If you're following along on Twitter, how many handles does the range have to potentially deliver for you to get a high probability 5-handle run? 10 handles. So if the price run that you're looking at, anticipating, you want to see if it can offer you 10 handle total movement. Not that you're trying to get the full 10. You can over time grow into that. But I taught that it needs to have a range to offer at least 10 handles. Now, with that in mind, let's think about this for a second, folks. We have had what? This dude, I knew he's going to come here and talk to me. I got to roll these windows up. Start to look like I'm a little bit more antisocial. So we have low probability because the weekly chart doesn't have a clear draw where it can go higher or lower for a specific level. So right away that we're in low probability. And we are in a trading range on that daily chart where we have seen wicks and tails both up and down. So we have a balanced price range. Think about it like this. For those that are in relationships, okay, say you're married or you're in a long-term relationship. When there's no arguing and no fighting, no chaos, it's boring, right? That's exactly what you want in your relationship. You don't want chaos. You don't want fights. You don't want arguments. You don't want anything like that. You want everything's balanced. And that's what you're seeing in price action right now. In ES, in NASDAQ, we are in a point of balance. There has not been anything introduced that caused an imbalance. Look at that. Look at the range I showed you on the daily chart for ES, that shaded little area. I tweeted it this morning again. Inside that range, we've seen expansion up and down, back and forth, back and forth. Now imagine that range was an empty space and you had a crayon and you were 5 and 6 years old again, and you were instructed to color that in. That box that I shaded is essentially been colored in, both up and down entirely. So it's balanced. Price has traveled up and down in that range, both ways, multiple times, multiple days. So where's it going to go next? I am submitting to you, and I've said this last week, I don't have a clear indication where it wants to go. So immediately that checks the first box. I am not in high probability conditions. So I'm not live streaming. I'm not going to sit on Twitter and call levels that I know that's likely to not pan out. I'm not going to feed the trolls. They're having a heyday with the 2 days. I said, I don't know what I'm doing, and this is what it is. Let's just get out here and spend time together. I don't need to spend every single day to prove the point that I've already taught, that if it's low probability, we're at 50-50. And I don't want to operate in 50-50. You shouldn't want to operate in 50-50. Now, also, no weekly draw. Immediately checks the box. We're in low probability. We're in a trading range. So it's in a balanced price range. We don't know where it's going to go. Now, you're also in a scalper's market. So right now, you have 3 things in that list for the criteria for high probability. Every single one of these are checking the box that you should not touch it. It's a rattlesnake. It's shaking its tail at you. The Desert Guide, ICT, told you last week, we're in low probability. I don't know what I'm looking for. We'll see what we see on Wednesday. And did I come back on Wednesday? It was happy trails, man. See you later. Hammer down. I'm going down the road. I wasn't chit-chatting with you. Every time I stopped, I talked to a couple of my private students. And no, I'm not going to come see. A lot of you are saying, "Hey, you're in Florida. Come by." No, 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 no. I'm not prepared for that. It's not that kind of trick. But now look at the price runs. How many of the price runs that you are trying to partake in, how many of them had the potential to pay out 10 handles? Uh-oh. Now the list grows even larger against you. So right away, it should make perfect sense. This tapestry that I've laid out here beforehand, this is a do not touch market. But ICT, I saw this guy on YouTube and I saw this guy on Twitter, and I'm inside this guy's Discord and he's doing this and he's doing that. And that's wonderful. Well done. If you want to learn from them, go right ahead. I'm not stopping you. I'm not holding anybody hostage here. But if I'm going to teach you and I'm teaching you a model with rules, what type of mentor and what type of sense would it make for me to do things outside the model and the rules I'm teaching you? It makes no sense. What growth would come from learning rules that I myself wouldn't even apply? If the market's telling you this, and that, well, how's that fit with the model? Does the model say we're in high probability conditions? Hammer down, get in here and start looking for setups. No, it's checking every box not to touch it. Don't touch it. And there will be setups. There will be setups that pan out that I won't be a part of. For me to sit down and educate you and have the charts live and say what I think is going to happen, I have to have everything in alignment. Otherwise, I'm going to look like anybody else out there that has no idea what they're doing, because the market's going to perform how the market's going to perform. I have no advantage when those things are occurring. So I have to excel when I know everything is in my favor. It needs to be one-sided. That doesn't mean a trending market. The market needs to be poised to move in a specific location from the weekly chart where I can see that clearly. Okay, I have my bias. I'm going to operate just in that. I'm teaching you how to do that. And that way you can go into the marketplace and study price action with that mindset. But some of you, and if I'm going to be fair and honest, I think it's the majority of the new students, you don't have the benefit of patience. You don't. I didn't have it when I first started. Don't think that I have this patience of a saint. I don't. I'm very impatient. But in this, I have to be. I have to be. And you're going to have to be as well, or you'll lose your money. You'll be frustrated